Good Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Thursday to get thirsty for some pro wrestling punditry. It's our very good friend, Paul Pratt. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
What a good place to spend our Thursday afternoons together, talking pro wrestling with all of the followers here on Wrestling Inc.'s social. So thanks for joining us, y'all.
Yeah, for sure. And, we are currently working through an issue on the site for the better, where we're going to more prominently display the live stream of this show on the site. But for the interim, there's no direct link on the main page of the site. So if you are watching this show right now, live 5 p.m. Eastern, you are a dedicated person who knows this shows exists. And if you want to help us get us through the next couple days, keep these shows lively, keep the chat room lively, go ahead, share the link out right now to the live version. Of course, you can always get the audio and the full podcast release, but let people know the daily's happening right now. We're going to have a lot more people on the other side of this thing when it's done. For the interim, we need your help handing out flyers on the street to bring people to the party. So do your part.
And if you are watching us or listening to us in audio format, that's awesome. Head over to your favorite podcast place and give us a fantastic review. We love good reviews.
Great reviews. And I will remove that from my outro since we did it up top. Yeah. And if you're listening to us in audio form from one of the many great podcast platforms, after we talk the news here in a bit, you're going to hear my interview with Rhea Ripley. That's from WrestleMania's 38 Media Row. Then at the end of the show, we'll dive into the mailbag. We're going to look at some of the big matches that have already happened this week, which ones grabbed your attention. But of course, like I said, the chat room is open. Jump in throughout the show. We'll try to bring your comments onto the show. Jason Pock, always love to watch live. Nick, thank you. Adam Yarbrough, hello. Nick and Paul. James Jones with the live stream on site. Will you have a chat? Yes, none of this will change. We are just trying to give this experience more exposure.
We love that. More exposure is always good.
Right. Absolutely. We would like to expose ourselves to as many people as possible. That is what the hope is of the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Sure. This sounds like an OnlyFans account.
Oh, well, hey, nothing wrong with that. So,
literally all my friends are doing it now. So,
yeah, nothing wrong with that. All right. Well, hey, we have Disco Joseph here, by the way, saying he's posting the link to all his socials right now for the show. Appreciate that. And Rocky Baya, hello, good people of Wink Daily. Thank you, Rocky, for jumping in. Seems like everybody's here. Let's dive into some news you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. Next, we're going to start here looking ahead to next week's Dynamite because, man, what a loaded show. You're going to get Wardlow Butcher, Hook, making his Dynamite debut, 2 Owen Hart Foundation tournament qualifier matches, a coffin match between Darby Allin and Andrade El Idolo, and on top of all of that, Paul, Tony Khan, he's going to be back because he's got another major announcement. Huge grab bag for next week. What do you think of all that, Paul?
The shows have been really stacked lately. Last night, I think that we're not even diving into this yet, but I think that last night's AEW broadcast was pay-per-view quality. It was
100%
pay-per-view quality show. Yeah. It's something that people would have paid for. So keep that momentum rolling. A lot of the matches next week are not grabbing my attention as much as the matches they've announced going into Friday's Rampage or this weekend's Battle of the Belts, but still big stuff coming out of AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, but the Tony Khan major announcement thing is the thing that has easily gotten the most attention. Like a coffin match, that should be a big deal. Wardlow's first big match since being suspended, big deal. But I feel like Tony Khan's major announcement, that's the thing people are most focused on going ahead. So before we talk about last night's show, because there's some stuff I do want to bring up, what do you think is left that could be big and major enough for him to get back onto the last time he did this, he bought Ring of Honor. What do you think this thing could be here, Paul?
I think it's a distribution deal for Ring of Honor.
You think that's what it is?
That would be my guess.
All right. You think that the ROH show has found a home? That's what he's going to be announcing.
I would think that is what it is. I can't imagine what else it would possibly be, but because I don't think coming on TV to announce an acquisition of talent would be, it doesn't seem that it stacks up. But since they are really heavily focused right now on Ring of Honor, pushing towards a Ring of Honor distribution deal seems to be where my gut instinct says.
I don't think that's wrong. It's just weird to me that these like business announcements have become like a segment on the wrestling show, right? You got like your cruisers, you got your brawlers, and then you got TK spewing some stuff for the sheets in a segment on the show. I don't know that it's bad. I just can't. It's like WWE would never. I mean, maybe if they had a big initiative, they do something like this, but it's like its own kind of genre of programming for AEW now.
I think it's Tony Khan's opportunity to be on air without having to play a character. And I really firmly believe that no matter what he has said, that Tony Khan desperately wants to be an on-air personality.
Man, he just loves driving the conversation, right? It's like no matter what, if you're not talking about what Tony Khan is talking about, he will find a way to make you start talking about him. That whole bots thing, I think, I don't know, did we all get worked? Did he know the reaction he was going to be getting and just wanted people to be talking on the interwebs? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I just strongly believe that Tony Khan wants to be an on-air talent. I think that Tony Khan, as much negative as he has said about Vince McMahon, aches to be perceived in the same light as a Vince McMahon.
He wants to be Eric Bischoff. Like, you know, at first he was not going to be an on-screen character. Now he's, like I say, there's like a genre. Like, he is a character. He shows up. He's the business guy. They reference him all the time. I think it's inarguable, too, that the story of AEW, the biggest overarching story of AEW, is the story of Tony Khan, right? Like, what is Tony Khan doing with the bigger grand scheme of things for AEW, right? I wonder how long it is till he just, like, you know, nuts somebody, becomes a heel full-on Eric Bischoff NWO type. I don't know.
We'll see if that happens, but I definitely think that he has and I'm not saying this in a negative way for any of the listeners. I think that that's one of the driving factors of this. I do not think that one wants to grow up and run a professional wrestling organization without getting the opportunity to be that on-air character. I just think that they go so hand in hand, and particularly for somebody who came up during the era of Tony Khan, where the on-air personalities of the owners were as central to the product as the talent.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the show we had last night. A couple things on Dynamite. First of all, Samoa Joe became the Ring of Honor television champion with a main event match against Minoru Suzuki. Got more time than I was expecting, for sure. First of all, what'd you think of the match and the title win there from Joe?
Well, I was excited to see that Joe is back in the title picture anywhere. To be honest, I think that's such a missed opportunity that we've seen in WWE for a number of years for a variety of reasons. So Samoa Joe getting this opportunity to return to the title picture is always good to me. I just spent the weekend surrounded by Minoru Suzuki matches as well, because I was on the road with Game Changer Wrestling. So we had him in Los Angeles on Saturday, San Francisco on Sunday, saw some incredible matches there. And I think that it's something very different. That match was something very different for American wrestling fans, or fans of American wrestling, because that was a very Japanese style match. The chops, just the nonstop chopping and chopping and chopping. For people who were tuning in, I think there might've been a lot of head scratching, like what is going on here? But for those who are privy to the way that they wrestle stiff and snug in Japan, that was something that was a treat for them to see on television.
I agree. It was like a lot of things in AEW. They're trying to play to a bunch of different niches and hope that all these niches quilted together are more than their parts alone. I agree with that. I thought it was I've been overexposed to Suzuki matches myself, not firsthand as you've been on the road, but I've watched a lot of Suzuki matches in the past year and a half. I think I called one or two at Warrior Wrestling, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So this was what I expected, and I agree. It was fine for what it was. And ROH, like the thing that was kind of, I don't know, like ROH really needs a program. They need to figure out what their distribution is. I hope that is the announcement next week so we can get on with it, because it just feels like such a throwaway that Joe just won this title. Like ROH very much just kind of feels like the little brother of AEW right now. And for it to really succeed and become something, it's got to find a direction. And, you know, having that title on Joe is great. Gresham's another great champion. I like all the champions they have actually right now. But it felt like a throwaway, especially when right after the title win, he gets attacked by Satnam Singh in the first ever AEW overrun. And people really did not seem to like this way to end AEW Dynamite.
It was, I understand what the reason behind it was. One of my followers on Twitter sort of came at me saying that I was acting like dumb to what they were trying to do. No, they're trying to very much direct attention and interest to this Jay Lethal Sanjay Dutt faction with the Singh edition. To me, it fell incredibly flat. That the blackout of the lighting was far too long. It killed all of the momentum and interest, heat for that. And I think that there is something to be said for having allowed Joe to create the interest just by being Samoa Joe, returning to this national or international platform in a title victory. And if you're going to put the lights out and turn the lights back on, and I don't know who the person is standing there, what is the point? And if the person's standing there looking like, he was in, I don't know, he looked in business casual. It was not intimidating at all.
He was Biz Kaz Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, it was like bring your giant to work day.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't know, this man, first of all, very, very large. I think he's like 7'3". He was the first India-born player to be drafted into the NBA. He was second-round draft choice to the Mavericks, even though he never played for the franchise. He's going to be managed, obviously, by Singh. And the Observer saying that the debut is designed to build the AEW brand in India, has a lot to do with the Warner Media Discovery merger. AEW programming airs on the Discovery-owned channel Eurosport India, a deal AEW president Tony Khan reportedly made based on the impending Warner Media Discovery merger. So, look, wrestling goes in cycles. We are back in a cycle now where I guess the India market is back up for play. We're taking it seriously again, Paul.
The Indian market is huge. There are, as we've been told repeatedly, over 1 billion people in the Indian market. And that is a great way to grow your viewers and your product globally. And I do not second guess that. I in fact, wholeheartedly think that that's an audience that should be focused upon. Unfortunately, for the rest of the audience in the world, which is up for grabs still, this may not have been the way to do it. I felt like that individual, if nothing else, if Singh had been presented in a way that was more intimidating in appearance or more, to me, this was a very much missed opportunity to let Joe get his flowers for a hot second. And it was a trade-off to try to promote interest in this faction. I do not think it worked.
Yeah.
What was trending? The Great Khali was trending.
Right. Yes.
The Great Khali was trending. So that is, to me, a failure. Something cannot trend if you don't know who the hell they are.
I'll say this. A lot more people are talking about Satnam Singh today than they were yesterday before AEW Dynamite, right? Was it the best executed thing? No, I thought, and Joe looked silly. Not Pat McAfee bumping for Vince McMahon silly, but silly nonetheless. And again, this is like a dominant Ring of Honor champion. It wasn't my cup of tea necessarily, but I get the end result here. I get where they're trying to go with it. He's such the guy, you look at him, you see Samoa Joe standing next to this guy. He looks like a baby. I get that. I would have, and again, I don't want to fantasy book this thing into the ground because coulda, woulda, shoulda. Maybe having him be less physical, right? Maybe having Joe and Lethal, or Dutt and Lethal, and maybe one or two other guys doing the dirty work while this guy's running the show, right? Waiting to kind of build to that physicality, letting us know a little bit more who about this man is. I understood the complaints about it. I'm not as boohoo. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a failure because I do think more people are talking about it. I'm willing to give it a chance. I just know the only issue that seems to consistently come up with India and about breaking into that market is it's just there's less disposable income there, right? There's a lot of passionate fans that want to support the product and be involved in stuff, but filling arenas and selling merchandise, it's a very different model over in India. So I hope they can find a way to make it work because I know there's a lot of very passionate India fans, but every 5 years, somebody seems to try to crack that nut, and there's always an issue that comes along when they try to do it,
Well, one of the benefits that I think we're going to see here for this individual, I don't know his mic skills, but Sanjay Dutt is certainly very talented in that area. And so hopefully, he can utilize his skills as a mouthpiece for Singh, and we'll see something positive. I think that I would have much rather just seen a debut from this guy without physicality at all, and just a stare down where they're face to face and we see how ginormous the guy is versus I've never been a fan of the head vice anyway. So that to me was but still not the way I would have ended the show, but that's what we got.
Well, I'll read Manjinder Rai here saying, I think Satnam's appearance has to be about something internationally. There's a great documentary on Netflix about him. So everybody, if you want to listen to Manjinder here, learn more about Satnam Singh, his background and his story, fully flush this man out. Make him a three-dimensional character in your mind. Check out the documentary. Thank you for the suggestion. Also in the world of AEW. Yes, in the world of AEW, I found this story to be very interesting. PWInsider.com saying, word going around Dynamite is that Pat Buck has started with the company as a producer. One source added that Buck was actually in attendance for last Wednesday's AEW Dynamite taping in Boston, which came 2 days after his WWE departure. Of course, Buck left WWE on the Monday after WrestleMania 38, telling officials that he had achieved his goals of producing main events on the biggest show of the year with the 2 matches he produced at WrestleMania 38, and how he now needed to refocus his energies on his family, something the current WWE schedule could not consistently afford the ability to do. He left the company earlier that day. He was not present at the Raw after Mania, and 48 hours later, he is backstage working as an agent for AEW. Man, that is a quick timeline, Paul.
Well, once again, we're seeing that AEW is not just interested in the runoff of in-ring talent from WWE. They're interested in those people who are decision makers behind the scene too, if they're leaving. So I think that it will be very interesting to see what Pat Buck contributes here. I know that Pat is very, very much respected by a significant number of talent, and I think that he could certainly contribute something very positive to the locker room.
I wonder if there's anybody at WWE that was doing a little kind of neck jerk, kind of like, wait, what? I thought he's going to spend time with his kids. He's worked at AEW now? What? That's just fast, man. I wonder if anybody knew. Caught me off guard. Well, lastly here, coming out of Dynamite, it appears Red Velvet, Kiera Hogan are now part of TBS champion Jade Cargill's baddie section stable. What do you think?
Well, I was shocked to see Red Velvet and Kiera in the baddie section last night on television. I'm a huge proponent of Jade Cargill. In fact, in my upcoming Pro Wrestling Illustrated column, which you guys can check out online right now digitally and in print soon, I put her over big time because I think that she's a star. I think that for these 2 women who have been lost a bit in the shuffle, if they are going to be attached to this baddies section and get a little bit more on-air opportunity, I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I like all of these women. I'm also happy to see Kiera Hogan's name in the mix, somebody that I'm a big fan of that seems to kind of fallen off TV a little bit. She even put out this like Instagram post that I know got people talking. She was like hashtag hottest free agent in pro wrestling. She's still very much with the company, obviously. And yeah, why not? Hook your wagon to Jade Cargill. This sounds fine. A women's stable. I like it. Good.
Absolutely. And it seems very much in line with what they're doing in terms of the product, having lots and lots of stables and lots of people connected here to one another. So these 3 women could, in fact, be a very hot commodity soon.
Well, lastly, here in AEW land, before we get to a couple WWE items, Fightful saying there has been internal talk of the AEW video game being released in September. Now, that's tentative, not official. It's noted there's still plenty of work to be done, but the plan for some time has been to release the game this year, and that September, widely regarded as a target time frame as of this week. I know there's gonna be like a story mode. The talent that has joined more recently was like told, sorry, we're closed. We are finishing this game. We can't keep adding at the pace Tony Khan is hiring right now. So September looks to be when the game, and I hope it's a great game. There is an opening there right now. There are a bunch of jaded fans with the WWE games. And if they could deliver, I think this could be a big opportunity for them.
They're experiencing, the people who are creating this AEW game are experiencing professionally the exact opposite of what people who are developing WWE games are. And that's that they're having to go in and take people out who were with the company when they started 3 months ago and then got lost in some kind of a mass release. AEW designers or these people who are kind of working on the backside of this game are trying to add people in. I'm glad that they closed things up because you will never, ever be able to keep up with the rate at which Tony Khan is adding talent. So people are going to be very, very excited when this game finally launches. I can only imagine the Twitch gaming community is going to explode with exposure for this. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
All right, I'm gonna do an audible here before we get to our next WWE story. There was a announcement that was made about an hour ago. We just got the coverage up about WWE's UK shows that are coming up here. They're going to run Newcastle on the April 28th, O2 on April 29th, Paris on the 30th, and then Leipzig on May 1st. And Drew McIntyre is going to be getting one or maybe multiple shots at the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. And I just thought that was interesting. A lot of people were wondering when that was going to happen. Looks like they're going to get right to it here later this month, these UK specials.
Well, it makes a lot of sense for Drew McIntyre to be the face of these international tours where people, because he's a huge draw outside the United States, certainly throughout Europe, he's extremely, extremely popular. I hope that this bodes well for their development of him and continued interest in him. They invested a lot of time in Drew McIntyre during the COVID era when things were not touring to develop him into this main event player. And I personally have felt his fall off or his fall in in quality and value in the company has been pretty noticeable and pretty significant. I feel like they've taken him from this real bona fide warrior and turned him with that sword and all of these things, the shenanigans of the Happy Corgan feud. They've made him more of a cartoon character, which does not suit me in at least in my interests.
He is 100% blown up 80s figure marketed towards children. He is Scottish Hulk Hogan, eat your haggis, say your prayers, that kind of deal.
Very Masters of the Universe.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, that's what they want him to be. He does it well. He's a big man, right?
He does exceedingly well in the role. It just doesn't resonate in my level of interest the way it did when he was the Scottish psychopath or even early Drew McIntyre as WWE World Champion.
Sure. Well, I mean, I actually think there's some believability here that the guy could take the title from Roman Reigns. They've done a great job of building him up, protecting him here recently. Why would you run this back? We've seen these guys already just to cost, Drew some matches here. That being said, I find it hard to believe they're going to flip these titles on a house show or something, or flip this huge title on a house show or something like that.
I don't for a moment think that Drew is going to walk out as champion. I do think that he is a viable contender. And I think that it's pretty obvious where the plan to go with this is, and that being Cody.
Okay. Well, Ray Ann here, by the way, while we're talking Roman Reigns, asked me to acknowledge this statement either at Double or Nothing or Wrigley Field Stadium at All Out in Chicago. CM Punk will be babyface AEW World Champion. He's over with fans. Punk deserves AEW belt. Well, Ray Ann, I acknowledge your statement, and I think we should all just breathe in what Ray Ann wanted me to read on the show here, Okay, moving on. Last item. PWInsider.com saying Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, surprise, surprise, currently listed internally as the top female babyface on the Raw roster. This note surprised me, though. Alexa Bliss, who tied the knot with Ryan Cabrera this past weekend and has been away from storylines since the Elimination Chamber, is currently listed as the number 2 female Raw babyface, with our guest here today, Rhea Ripley, at number 3. Rhea Ripley, she just turned on Liv Morgan. She's number 3. Now, on the heel side of Raw, Becky Lynch, of course, she's the number 1 heel, but below her is just Carmella and Queen Zelina, I guess just 2 and 3 interchangeably, who just recently broke up as a tag team. Do any of these revelations say anything to you, Paul?
Am I surprised? No. Does it say anything to me? Yes. It says to me that they have so little focus on this division that those are why those are the top female baby faces and the top female heels? Because they're the only ones they focus on.
But Alexa Bliss she hasn't been on TV in months. She's the number 2.
You know why? That's because of the fact that they have almost no baby faces that are in the women's division on that show.
It's just like, why? What are we doing here? You can't do that. You can't find another woman on Raw to elevate as a baby face. Come on now, people.
What about Dana Brooke?
What about Dana Brooke? People loved it. The Dana Brooke Reggie stuff. I wish that like it's like that's a cartoon. Drew McIntyre, good kind of cartoon. The 24/7 stuff, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a cartoon.
One of the things I do want to give a shout out to Miranda Gordy, second generation superstar, making her WWE on air debut as a member of that bachelorette party. I worked with her at Empower. So good to see you out there, Miranda. Congratulations on getting some airtime.
All right. Well, hey, we'll wrap up the news there. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining me to talk all the news at the top of the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, we're a little bit out of the off the beaten path here, as they say, right? Because again, we're not focused on the main page of the site here. I think we're gonna have it fixed by Monday, but just to be sure, you should all tweet out the @weekday, the Twitter, and the link to the show when we go live tomorrow with TK. Let everybody know the party's going on. And of course, thank you to WWE and Rhea Ripley. Great time at the WrestleMania Media Row. Awesome conversation. That video of me and her talking up on our YouTube channel right now, where we are very nearly at 100,000 subscribers. All right. @Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the account to follow. Today's poll question: what's been the match of the week so far? It's some big matches here. Was it CM Punk Penta? Was it Cody Miz? Samoa Joe Suzuki? About 150 votes here. Very, very close. 39.5 goes to Joe Suzuki. 27.9 goes to Punk versus Penta. And right behind that, 26.4 goes to Cody versus The Miz. Only 6% to everything else. Paul, what'd you think of the takeaways from this poll?
My match of the week that we've seen so far would presumably be the Usos versus the Street Profits. That tag team match on Raw was outstanding. As a big proponent of tag team wrestling, which is so often overlooked in the world of WWE, this was an outstanding showing for both teams. So that gets my vote. As far as the other matches, I thought, I saw somebody say that they felt that CM Punk showing against Penta was very weak, and I did not understand that. I thought it was a great match, and Penta actually looked believable as someone who could upend CM Punk. I thought it did a world of good for him, and I thought that both of them put on a very enjoyable match, both for the audience and I would imagine for themselves.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And by the way, am I still here? Can you see me? Am I moving around?
Absolutely.
Okay, my computer froze. I wanted to make sure the whole show didn't go cattywampus. No, I completely agree with you. I thought it was one of the better outings, especially for Penta as a singles performer, and he came out with the mysticism, and you see Punk kind of like, all right, listen, I've spewed Paul Bearer's ashes around. This is nothing for me. So I dug it. I thought it was a great dynamic. I liked all three matches. I just kind of wanted to create some drama, create some controversy, make people choose sides. That's all. I thought Cody Miz was good too. It was cool to see those two work together. It was like Cody versus MJF, but MJF's just a little bigger. Same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, except MJF is a little bigger. I thought that was also
MJF bigger than Miz.
What was that?
Is MJF bigger than Miz?
I don't know. I think that they're about the same.
No, I think Miz is bigger. I'm gonna look it up. All right, go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
But I thought that this was an overall great week for television wrestling, and I even watched for the first time in a really, really, really long time a lot of the NXT product, and I thought that was actually very good programming as well this week. So a lot of it.
Some of it. Let's not get carried away here. Duke Hudson and Dexter Lumis, that stuff is not easy for me to watch. There is stuff I did like, but I'm not going to say NXT 2.0 has quite won me over yet. There's still some flaws.
That was the best NXT 2.0 show that I've attempted to watch. I actually made it through all of it, which is unheard of. So to me, that was the best that I've seen from them this week. And I also really enjoyed match-wise Matt Cardona defending the NWA's World Heavyweight Championship against the Pope on NWA Power this week on Tuesday. So you can catch that on YouTube tomorrow as well for them. That was a great match as well. So I felt like this was a very strong week in professional wrestling as a viewer.
Miz is 6'2", MJF is 5'11". Anyway, I've stood next to both of them. I'm pretty confident Miz is the bigger of the two. That's all I'm saying. Not trying to throw shade. Both are great. All right. That's going to bring us to the end of the show here today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Come on back tomorrow. We're going to have a big show to end the week. Of course, me and TK Trinidad will be here talking the news. You're going to get to hear a brand new interview. I sat down with Gangrel. You're going to hear me and Gangrel talk all about what he's been doing in MLW. He was backstage and tacitly kind of involved in the big LA Park drama that went down at Gillies nightclub in Dallas. I don't know if you've heard about this, Paul. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
The LA Park family, long story short, went into their business for themselves. This is shoot. Beat down Hammerstone and Jacob Fatu with chairs, like whacked Hammerstone in the back of the head. Court fired them from the company. The whole family is gone from MLW, and Gangrel was just backstage while that was all going down. So crazy story from that weekend. But we talk a lot of other stuff too. You know, Edge is now Brood 2.0. What you think about that? A lot of other stuff. Me, Gangrel, come back tomorrow. Also, support the Wrestling Inc. Daily, like Paul said, on all the podcast platforms. Support WrestlingInc.com on all the socials, and come back here tomorrow night after SmackDown for the Wrestling Inc. podcast live. It's just like this, only at night, and they talk about SmackDown. All right, Paul, what do you want to put over here to wrap up the show today?
Hey, follow me on Twitter, the Glamazon PDM. You can keep up with all of the crazy life that I've been living in wrestling world of late. And if you can't see it, this is my new QWO merch.
That is sick as all hell.
QWO for life. So check me out on Twitter, and you can figure out how to get your own QWO merchandise if you want. Plus, new Poya Del Mar merchandise is coming next week.
All right, cool. And I'm at Nick_Houseman over on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked,